Hey, what's up guys? Daniel Barker here with another exciting After Effects tutorial. Alright, I don't know if you guys seen it already, but I just posted up the new improved stealth camouflage effect from the Ice Cream Caper short, and I'm here today to show you how to do that if you guys don't know already. Right, well, so let's get started. Alright, I'm just going to import my footage and we'll get going. Okay, so pop those in. Alright, let's start by making a new composition. Right, I was working 25 frames per second, so in 1080p. So just pick a preset, whatever you guys are working in. I would say go with that. Check your pixel aspect ratio. It's usually square pixels, but if you're working with DV, it tends to be a bit iffy. But anyway, let's get moving. Cool. So here are my clips. Okay, so I've got my background plate here, and I have my delightful assistant Declan here doing his ninja prowl. Cool, so I made my composition a little bit too big, so we'll just press N on the keyboard and we'll trim comp to work area. So we're working with something a bit more manageable now. Right, so the trick to this effect really was shooting my subject on green screen on location, so the lighting was kind of convincing and about the same. You wouldn't have thought it was two different shots. And then basically just cutting a hole in one and seeing through to the other, and then using that, applying some effects and making it all look funky. Cool. So our first step here really is to kind of extract a nice map from Declan by just doing some basic keying. If you guys been to videocopilot.net, absolutely phenomenal site, great tutorials. They've got some more detailed stuff on keying, but I'll try and go through the basics for you anyways. We'll start off by using a color key, and we just duplicate that a couple times. Control D for duplication. Now just try and pick about 4 different greens really. Using the eyedropper tool. Is if we just want to kind of get a nice garbage map. So we've got most of it keyed out, and we'll let the computer do the rest with key light later on. Anyway, we just up the color tolerance, and you'll start to see that we're eating away at our image, which is nice and yummy. Nom, nom. Okay, nice and yummy. Nom, 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 nom. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Cool. I'll just quickly turn off this layer so we got our nice little transparency checkerboard. If you guys have got black, then just click this here, and it'll help you see what you're working with. Just move somewhere towards the middle. You can see my green screen didn't quite cover his head, but don't worry, we'll sort that out sooner or later. Cool. Now that we've done our basic color key, if we go to matte, simple choker, just pull this out a bit, and it'll basically just help us get nicer edges on our green screen. Cool. So we got that. Now, keying, key light. If we zoom in nice and close, pick screen color as the edge there. You can see that now we have this kind of really harsh edge, but don't worry, we'll fix that up. Do that's relatively simple. Just pop on our screen matte. If you click view, screen matte, we'll get this nice black and white image, which basically shows us what is known as the alpha channel. Now the alpha channel basically is a black and white image. White means completely opaque, black means you can see through it, and anything in between means you can slightly see through it and it's slightly opaque. So kind of like the more white it is, the more opaque, the more black, the more transparent. So if we were to pop this over our screen, our footage, you'd still see it really. It's not entirely black at the moment, but luckily our garbage mat gets rid of most of that. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll pop our screen mat up the clip back a tiny bit. No need to really clip white because it seems like our Declan is nice and loose. transparent up here. Cool. And just mess with the screen. Literally just play with the settings so you get something you like quite a lot actually. I'll shrink this a tiny bit. If I have a look at the final result, it's still quite. So just shrink our matte a tiny bit more and just up the softness just a tad. Right, it's still not looking correct. Alright, that's a little bit better. Like I said, Andrew Kramer's got some phenomenal tutorials on keying, so I would strongly suggest you go that way if you haven't done any green screen work before, just to get the general basics really. Alright, as you can see, I screwed up when I was filming a bit and I kind of must have knocked the camera in between takes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mess with the transparency a bit, pressing T on for the shortcut to bring up the opacity, and now just holding shift and click, just drag it over till we get until it lines up nicely. Alright, awesome. Cool. Just put the transparency back up, and there we go. Footage is nice and lined. Right, so go about, well, that's where it starts to cut, so we'll just keep it to about there. Press N and trim comp to work area again. So we got R. So we're working in with only the footage we need to really. Kind of got our basic image stuff going on here, right? So let's rename our titles. Hit enter on the keyboard over the layer name and you'll get a nice little blue flashy thing. Just type in your name. So we'll just call this like Declan Matt. Let's call Matt. And we'll just call this our background BG. Would do. Awesome. Alright, so now that we have our Declan Matt looking okay-ish, if we just solo the layer and we pop on our alpha transparency, you can kind of see that we've got our tree still. We kind of want to get rid of that, and we also want to get rid of this part up here. So what we'll do is we'll make a nice little quick mask to deal with that. But first we'll just pre-compose this shot. And now that we're happy with it, so just Control Shift C, or you can go Layer, Pre-compose. It's entirely up to you. I highly recommend shortcuts. It just makes your life so much easier. Okay, so we Declan. That's how you spell Declan. Declan Matt. Apologies about that. Cool. So we've got our Declan Matt. Alright, with the Declan Matt selected, what we want to do is we want to just grab our pen tool and now clickety away. So I'm going to rush this just so that you guys don't get bored and sad, because that would be bad, really. Ideally, I would probably keyframe this mask, but we don't really want to waste too much time. So I just want to give you guys the general idea of what's going on. Okay then, sorted. Read. Right, now if you just press M on your keyboard and just change your mask mode to subtract, and voila, we have a happy Declan. Just click on your viewer thing here, change it to RGB, and we have Declan isolated by himself without loads of tedious rotor, which is just pain and suffering for everyone involved. Now, what I want to do is just pre-compose this again actually. What we want to do now is actually duplicate this, so Control D, or you can go on like Effect or Edit, Duplicate, and we'll actually call this layer Declan Overlay. Now you'll find out why we're going to do this in a little while, but for now, just bear with me. Cool. Alright, so we got our background layer. This we also want to duplicate. and we're going to call this distort. Distort back BG or something. Alright, awesome. And cool. So we just turn off these layers here. What we want to do is we want to go on our distort BG. I'll just go on effect, distort, and name distort BG, and go displacement map. Now, what this effect will do is basically let us pick a layer, which we want to use our map mask layer, and then create some displacement using either the RGB values or the luminance or whatever you guys want to work with. Me personally, when I did my one, I used the luminance. There we go. And we got our nice little stealth camo redeclin there. Alright, just turn it down a bit. Depends on how subtle or how distorted you want your background and stuff. I would say just be careful though, because if you kind of pull it down too much, then you see you'll go off the edge of the image, of the footage, and it'll just look a bit weird, really. Not good. We can afford a little bit more with the horizontal displacement, given the aspect ratio we're working with. Alright, so we've got our little invisible declin sorted, for now anyways. Now, what we want to do is, we actually want, if you want to make him pop out a little bit more, what we can do is we can go to effects, color correction, or curves. Now by bumping up the curves just a little bit, you can make him, although you don't really want the background getting brighter as well actually, so what we'll do is we'll quickly just go on our track matte here. If you can't see that right now, then just click toggle switches and modes here, until you have your track matte option here. We just want to go track mattes, alpha matte, declin matte mask, and as you can see now we've kind of isolated all the effects we applied to this to just this object here really, so we can mess with the colors as much as we want really. If we just add up the brightness a little bit, just help them pop out from the background a little bit more. Obviously he's meant to be quite invisible, but it's down to you whether you want your audience to see him or not, but whatever. Alright, awesome. Alright, so now we're going to get onto the second stage, which is making the transition effect. That's how you do the basic kind of stealth camouflage effect. It's relatively straightforward, but we want the transition. If you guys want to do something similar to the transition I've done, just quickly try and go through that quite quickly. Right. First thing I did, I decided where I want the transition to actually take place. So you see him move his, in fact it's probably easier if I work with this one, turn this one off for now. Right. So we want him to touch his glasses, and this is affecting the stealth camouflage. If you go here, you can just drag out a marker for where you want your effect to start, and then drag it up to where you want the effect to end. So the advantage of using markers is it just helps you keep organized really, and also you then have the shortcut of being able to press 1 and 2 just to jump between the two, which is quite, just helpful really. So what we want to do is we want our declin overlay to disappear into the nothingness. So what I used for that was basically went onto key, and I used my luma key effect here. As you can see with the threshold, lets me make him just kind of disappear. Not the traditional application of the effect, but hey, we're artists, we can do what we like. Okay, key out darker. Okay, so you just want to keyframe the threshold. Keyframes basically interpolate data between 2 points. You'll see how this works in a sec. Just click on your stopwatch here, and as you see, it'll have a funny kind of little ticky thing, which will let you know that it's working. Just press 2 on my keyboard, which will jump me to the end of where I want the effect to apply. And now if I make him disappear, now if I turn on my distort background layer, we have our stealth camouflage effect right underneath, and effectively we have our little transition. But wait, we're not finished yet. There's still more we can do.